if you're familiar with Glennon Doyle Melton. She's a best-selling author. She's also the author of the award-winning blog Monastery, where she writes about the highs and lows of parenthood. She doesn't tell people how to raise their children, but she shares experiences in all her brutal honesty so that other mothers might know that their struggles are not singular. She wrote to her son Chase, I think it was 2 years ago, before he started 3rd grade, and shared it on her blog, and it went viral. And I'm going to share her letter to Chase with you this morning. She wrote, "Dear Chase, tomorrow is a big day, your first day of 3rd grade. Wow! When I was in 3rd grade, there was a little boy in my class named Adam. Adam looked a little different. He wore funny clothes, and sometimes he even smelled strange. Adam didn't smile. He hung his head low, and he never looked at anyone at all. Adam never did his homework. I don't think his parents reminded him like yours do. The other kids often teased Adam. Whenever they did, his head hung lower and lower. I never teased him, but I never told the other kids to stop either. I never talked to Adam, not once. I never invited him to sit next to me at lunch or to play with me at recess. Instead, he sat and played by himself. He must have been very lonely. I still think about Adam. I wonder if Adam remembers me. Probably not. I bet if I'd asked him to play just once, he'd still remember me. I think God puts people in our lives as gifts to us. The children in your class this year, they are some of God's gifts to you. So please treat each one like a gift from God, every single one. Baby, if you see a child being left out or hurt or teased, part of your heart will hurt a little. Your dad and I want you to trust that heartache. Your whole life, we want you to notice and trust your heartache. That heartache is called compassion, and it's God's signal to you to do something. It's God saying, Chase, wake up. One of my babies is hurting. Do something to help. Whenever you feel compassion, be thrilled. It means God is speaking to you, and that is magic. It means God trusts you and needs you. Sometimes the magic of compassion will make you step in the middle of a bad situation right away. Compassion might lead you to tell a teaser to stop it and then ask the teased kid to play. You might invite a left-out kid to sit next to you at lunch. You might choose a kid for your team first, who's usually chosen last. These things will be hard for you to do, but you can do hard things. Sometimes you'll feel compassion, but you won't step in right away. That's okay too. You might choose instead to tell your teacher and then us, we're on your team. We're on your whole class's team. Asking for help for someone who is hurting is not tattling. It is doing the right thing. If someone in your class needs help, please tell me, baby. We will make a plan to help together. When God speaks to you by making your heart hurt for someone, by giving you compassion, just do something. Please do not ignore God's whispering to you. I so wish I had not ignored God when God spoke to me about Adam. I remember God trying. I remember feeling compassion, but I chose fear over compassion. I wish I hadn't. Adam could have used a friend, and I could have too. Chase, we do not care if you are the smartest or fastest or coolest or funniest. There will be lots of contests at school, and we don't care if you win a single one of them. We don't care if you get straight A's. We don't care if the girls think you're the coolest or get picked first or last for kickball at recess. We don't care if you have the best clothes or the most trading cards or the coolest gadgets. We just don't care. We don't send you to school to become the best at anything at all. We already love you as much as we possibly could. You do not have to earn our love or pride, and you can't lose it. That's done. We send you to school to practice being brave and kind. Kind people are brave people. Brave is not something you wait to feel. Brave is a decision. It's a decision that compassion is more important than fear, than fitting in, than following the crowd. Trust me, baby, it is. It is more important. Don't try to be the best this year, honey. Just be grateful and kind and brave. That's all you ever need to be. Take care of those classmates of yours and your teacher, too. You belong to each other. You are one lucky boy with all these new gifts to unwrap this year. I love you so much that my heart might explode. Enjoy and cherish your gifts. And thank you for being my favorite gift of all time. Love, Mama. I took Glennon's letter and rewrote it as if God was speaking to us. And it started out, beloved. And I started it that way because in my mother's will, we learned she referred to her 3 children as beloved. To my beloved daughter Gail, to my beloved daughter Billie, to my beloved son Junior. That memory is 35 years old this past June, and I will never, ever forget being called beloved by my mother in her will. I never heard the words come out of her mouth, from her lips to my ears, and yet it is a cherished memory. Hear God now calling you beloved. Listen to God's bequest, to God's legacy. Dear beloved, today is the first day of the rest of your life. Wow! When my son walked on earth, he saw lepers and tax collectors, prostitutes and sick people, blind men and cast-off women. Some of them wore funny clothes, looked odd, or even smelled strange. Some didn't smile. Some hung their heads low and lower and lower. Some were teased or rejected. Some ignored and had backs turned on them. Many around them never spoke up for them or told others to stop being mean. Now from Mark 10, verses 46 to 52, we learn about a blind man named Bartimaeus who was sitting by the roadside begging. And when he heard that it was Jesus walking by, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more. Jesus stopped and called the man to him and asked, "What do you want me to do for you?" One of our scripture lessons for today. Back to the letter. There were people who never talked to these folks, these outcasts, people who never sat close to them or hugged them. They believed their religion told them that they would become unclean, and there was this long ritual, a purity ritual, they would have to go through, to suffer through for a while. But that ritual was never for as long as these other folks suffered. In Matthew 8, verses 1 through 4, we read about a leper who came to Jesus saying, "Lord, if you will, you can make me clean." And Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, "I will, be clean." And immediately the leper was cleansed. Our second scripture lesson for this morning. Continuing with God's letter, I still remember these folks and all the ones who have lived before and since my son walked the earth. So many ostracized, outcast, rejected. People are put into your lives as gifts. The people in your family, in your church, in your community, and even beyond are some of my gifts to you. one like a gift from me, every single one. John 13:34 says, a new commandment I give you, love one another as I have loved you, so you must love one another. God's letter goes on. My child, if you see someone being left out or hurt or teased, part of your heart will hurt a little. I want you to trust that heartache. Your whole life, I want you to notice and trust your heartache. That heartache is called compassion, and it is my signal to you to do something. It is me saying, child, wake up. One of mine is hurting. Do something to help. Whenever you feel compassion, be thrilled. It means I'm speaking to you, and that can feel like magic to you. It means I trust you, and I need you. Galatians 6:2 says, carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. The letter goes on. Sometimes the magic of compassion will make you step into the middle of a bad situation right away. Compassion might lead you to tell a teaser to stop it, and then you ask the one who's being teased if they'd like to have a Coke or a cup of coffee with you. You might invite a left-out coworker to lunch. You might choose to be kind to someone who has hurt you. These things will be hard to do, but you can do hard things. Colossians 3:12 and 13 reads, put on then, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another. The letter goes on. Sometimes you'll feel compassion and you won't step in right away. That's okay. You might choose to find others who think like you, others who can be on your team. Asking for help for someone who is hurting is doing the right thing. Tell others, get help, find support, pray, knowing I am with you, guiding and directing, helping as only I can. Matthew 18:20 says, for where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there I am among you. Back to the letter. When I speak to you by making your heart hurt for another, by giving you compassion, just do something. In the book To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee, Atticus Finch tells his daughter, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it. It's not an easy thing to do. The letter goes on. Please do not ignore my whispers to you. Others have wished they hadn't ignored me. Do not choose fear over compassion. Those others can use a friend, and so can you. Listen to 1 John 4:18. There is no love in fear, but perfect fear drives out fear. But perfect love drives out fear. God's letter goes on. I do not care if you are the smartest, the wealthiest, the coolest, or the funnest. There are a lot of what feels like contests in life, and I don't care if you win a single one. I don't care if you do life perfectly. I don't care what others think about you. I don't care if you're considered the favorite by your boss or preacher or parent or best friend. I don't care if you have the best clothes or manners or the coolest gadgets. I have not sent you into the school of life to become the best at anything. I love you more than you can possibly imagine. You do not have to earn my love or pride, and you cannot lose it. That's done. I've sent you into the world to practice being brave and kind. Kind people are brave people. Brave is not something you wait to feel. Brave is a decision. It's a decision that compassion is more important than fear, than fitting in, or than following the crowd. Again, we hear perfect love drives out fear. Trust me, beloved, compassion is more important. Don't try to be the best. Just be grateful and kind and brave. That's all you ever need to be. Take care of those around you, for you belong to each other. You are one lucky person with all those new gifts of friendship to unwrap that are around you. I love you so much that my heart might explode. Thank you for being my favorite gift of all time. Love, Papa God. That's a reference to the shack. For those of you that have read it, that's the name for God in the shack, Papa God. Now, God could have written this to any of us, just like Glennon's letter could have been written to by any parent in this town, in this room, to our children, our grandchildren that are in grade school, high school, college, or beyond. We are called not to judge. We are called to be open, to help and befriend today's lepers, blind men, cast-off women, tax collectors, and other people who are different from us. And who are these people today? Who is missing from this room now? People in the throes of poverty, people questioning their sexual identity, people of other races or ideologies or political stances. Who's missing from this room, from our lives right now? I have a short story to share with you. Now, all stories are not true, are not factual, but they're true. They're not factual. St. Peter and Angel Gabriel had a problem. Peter was sorting people at the pearly gates, letting some in and keeping others out. But Gabriel was finding more people in heaven than Peter was letting in. They were both befuddled. Gabriel told Peter to keep working, and he'd get to the bottom of what was happening. A few hours later, Gabriel came back and told Peter, "Don't worry, I figured it out. Jesus is pulling people in over the wall." I've heard it said more than once that there's going to be a lot of Christians who find themselves surprised in the afterlife, in the middle of a crowd with Muslims, Buddhists, Hindus, Jews, people of Baha'i faith, and more, Jainism. I also believe that the walls we built to keep us from mixing with other people, drunkards, prostitutes, today's lepers, whoever that might be, those walls we build do not reach to heaven. I believe God intends for us to recognize we are all on this journey of life together, with all of humanity, with all of creation, and we are here to help one another, to walk the mile and share the road. May we, sisters and brothers, serve one another as we are Christ to those around us. In a few moments, when I get the phone ready, we're going to sing the servant song. And I invite you to listen to the message in the words. Is it time for us to soften our hearts toward another person, toward another group of people, and serve all of humanity together? I invite you to listen to the words as we sing together. The servant song is number 120 in the loose leaf, and we'll sing verses 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. We'll leave out verse 5.